for a royal touch that brings splendor look. Try out our test coat, emulsion, silk, and matte paint to give your building that royal touch. Our paints come in varieties of classic, executive, and royal brands. Visit our showroom at Friends Filling Station by Anwai Campus Gate off Asaba Ubolu Ila Road, or call us on 0803 074 6655 or 0701 313 3557. Royal Splendor Paints, for that royalty you desire.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
It is indeed another Monday morning. Good morning and welcome. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
See who's back here. Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Yeah, let's take you through this particular scenery from Gombe State. I know that, there's a lot of attention now on ensuring food security, ensuring accessible roads to distribute food, produce, and products in different parts of the country in terms of infrastructure development, which contributes largely to availability or otherwise for food security. Well, the state happens to have gotten some accolades about what they've done for businesses. It's up to you to decide. But yes, indeed, this is Gombe State.
Yeah, and it's really very pretty to see, Chamberlain. I mean, no state certainly wants to be left in the backwater. And if this is what Gombe State looks like today, I mean, this certainly is central area, because what we know usually is that Gombe is a largely agrarian state, and we're not seeing the farms here in this particular show. So I imagine that this is the central city in Gombe, the capital being Gombe City itself. So really beautiful visual to see that the city is a city. From up here, it looks really clean, it looks really tidy, it looks pretty well networked. So if you're looking to live in the city and work in a, say, rural settlement, Gombe just might be the place for you, having ranked #1 consistently now for a while on the ease of doing business ranking in Nigeria. Quite a feat they have been able to maintain there. Ayo.
Not only that which you have just mentioned, the presidency also gave some accolades to the state for the number of activities that they have invested in. Well, you may go ahead and check those out, particularly in the area of technology and digital innovations, which, of course, has been in the news for a while. But most certainly, and Chamberlain, you are, spot on when you talk about the activities of a state like Gombe as an agrarian state, as you've mentioned, Malcolm. But then the fact that food security is something we are championing, it indeed is something. Well, this may not look like it. I mean, it's such a pretty sight to see a well-developed northern state, and a good number of people will be wondering, wait, are you sure this is northern Nigeria? Oh, yes. It's not just of huts and farms and bushes. This is Gombe City in Gombe State. Beautiful sight for your morning. So, Chamberlain, what's happening today?
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll come back to everyone with that one, including some of the dailies here this morning. So just give us a moment. We will be right back.
Ifeoma Williams, your guide on this transformative journey.
Welcome to Transform Her, the first of its kind on-air coaching program exclusively on Channels Television.
I define a product as that perfect thing that people are ready to part with their money for.
In a male-dominated environment, being required to uphold a position of leadership.
The good, the bad, the ugly, they all pull together to make you this woman and this person that you can be.
Join us in shaping the future of African female leadership as we provide practical resources for entrepreneurs and aspiring C-suite leaders. Every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. West African time, we bring you expert interviews, transformative coaching, and the tools you need for exponential personal and professional growth. Transform Her, because it's time to unlock your potential and lead with purpose.
Big tech wasn't really here. What have they seen in the past 10 years, which is making all of them want to put their HQ here?
If you're a business that sees itself growing global, we'll definitely need some sort of like boosts. We need to tap into those existing networks that these big tech companies do provide.
Is there a downside to big investment in Africa? Okay. It's a tricky question.
We want to be like Amazon, we want to be like Google. Like, this is not, we are not looking to sort of be just another player.
For me, big tech is something highly controversial. I see the value of it, but I also see that Africans should stop playing second fiddle to some of these organizations and have the confidence to start building our own technology.
We've seen how we are using the limited resources we have to solve real problems. They've seen indigenous tech startups achieving things that took them years to figure out.
Let's go ahead and take you through some of the papers we've got for you here this morning. We'll start with Nigerian Tribune. Financial autonomy. Panic in states as 437 local governments risk zero allocation this month. That's a big one right there. Beneath that lead story, importers lose 284 billion naira to cargo sampling at Lagos ports in 5 years. The paper reports here today. Meaning something needs to be done about that. On to Vanguard newspaper next. Consumer spending down as Nigerians remain gloomy on economy. So that also featuring there this morning on the front page of Vanguard newspaper. And then The Guardian, Supreme Court judgment. 21 states raised to hold elections as 489 local government areas face zero FAC allocations. So, suggesting, who knows, without that judgment, they might have been sitting tight or sitting pretty, if you will. And then have a look at Nigerian News Direct. Dangote to list refinery fertilizer plant on stock market Q1 2025. The paper reports this morning. Business Day reports that high yields force firms to reduce bond issuance by 98%. Yeah. That's what you're seeing right there as well this morning. Daily Independent, harsh environment slows telcos investment, impacts service quality. And then beneath that one, court orders ministry to disclose details of pact between FG and X. So all eyes on them now to see how they respond to that. Or Blueprint focuses on something entirely different. Attack on Trump beyond pale of democratic norms. Ascribed to Tinubu. The paper reports as well this morning. Our Daily Trust, 6 years after Abuja-Kaduna Road project uncompleted. Daily Times, most states not viable, we don't need more. Abakoba, that's the lead story there. Or the Abuja Inquirer reports tension as FG predicts heavy floods in Garki, Gwagwalada. Administration alerts residents, warns of cholera spread. So that's the big one there. So let's see how they approach all of that one, which is on the front page of the Abuja Inquirer this morning. And the Nigerian Observer, 408 local government areas brace for no allocations as Supreme Court verdict takes effect. You get to see the rider Northwest, Southeast, North Central most affected as Adamawa approaches apex courts for interpretation. Those are some of the papers we've got for you this morning.
Well, I will not be able to resist what's on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning, and it's still, of course, a reference to that judgment of the Supreme Court last week, which a good number of people are still talking about. Now we understand that some states are in panic mode, panicking states, as 437 local governments risk zero allocation this month. Of course, you'll find the story on the inside pages of the paper. The fate of caretaker committees, LCDAs hangs in balance as the nation awaits fight back by governors. That's, of course, I'm talking about the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. You know, what's cheering about it? Well, the good number of people are cheering in. Of course, there are those who are still questioning constitutionality and all of that. And, of course, we also heard Mr. Femi Falana saying last week that whether we like it or not, literally, the Supreme Court has rewritten, in a sense, the Constitution. Whether or not the constitutional amendment has gone in that, will be going in that direction, we'll wait to see. But for me, it's the developmental aspects of it. It's the impact that this should make. So on the one hand, is the fact that that matter has been laid out there. On the other hand, is the challenge of implementing this judgment of the Supreme Court. Who are the people that will implement it? How will it be implemented? There are those who are saying that, look, we may be celebrating now, but the governor still have the local government chairman by the jugular one way or the other. I guess we'll wait to see how it all goes. But I'm just wanting now, at this point, to call on the people who live in these various communities. Please keep your eyes on the federal government, keep your eyes on the state government, but keep a closer eye on the local government chairman right next to you, because they are the ones who now have more than enough money to do the needful by the people. Take care of the environment, take care of health, and take care of the education, particularly the payment of teachers' salaries as and when due, so that their education is not limited in any way. And also championing food security. I guess we'll talk about that one later, but that's my take this morning. Okay, Mark Fair and Chamberlain.
It's very tempting to follow up on your take, a very juicy take you have decided to, chomp on this morning with local government autonomy. I'm sure while a lot of people are excited about it, rightfully so, hoping that this will be the first of many in line of bringing development to the local government. There are those who are also saying, you know what, it's not yet. In fact, it's a long way from Uhuru. If a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, let's just say that we've just taken the first step. The journey is still very much, or let's say destination is still very much farther ahead. But no need to despair. At least there's something to look forward to. Let's not forget that just yesterday, local government elections were held in Adamawa and Delta states. And no surprise, the party in power at the center, took up all the local government seats. I think in one of the states, the other parties refused to participate and were looking for ways to see how they could put it on hold. That's because we still know that somehow the electoral bodies at the state level are still not living up to expectation. They're not still doing things as I'm sure if you ask them, they will have, wonderful news to tell you about how they're doing things according to the book. But the results, sometimes point to the contrary. But let us hope that this would, awaken interest. Because ideally what this should do is awaken interest at the local level, that people shouldn't leave it to, the powers that be to just decide for them, to say we can do nothing about it. The Supreme Court seems to be saying there is something that you can do. If financial autonomy is the first way to start, then we now have to, pay closer attention to ensure that we're not just moving the sharing centers from the state level or from the federal level to a local level where you will now have another group of elites who will just come up at the local government level trying to share what should belong to all of the people at that local government level. But then
elites wants to go there too?
No, but you know, every locality has its own group of elites, Chamberlain. Every locality. So what you might now see is that there will now be interest in what is going on there. Well, let us hope that that will spur some competition in such a way that will bring about, you know, that would demand accountability and good government from the people who live there. It shouldn't be that, because there is still the problem. People still say that, look, let us not forget that what we're looking at here is still a sharing system. We're not looking at a generating system. We're not looking at a system whereby people are making the money at the local level and asking to keep what they make at the local level. What we're looking at is money coming from the central, coming to the state, and then coming to the local. So before you know what's happening, people might be seeing it as some sort of sharing system. Then there are those who say that, look, right now, the local governments are already overburdened in the sense that they do not hire their own members of staff. If you speak to a local government chairman, he might tell you that he has far in excess of what he needs. Why? Because the Local Government Service Commission is not under the control of the local government chairman. And that for a long time, state governments have just used that as a sort of
slush funds.
No, not the funds themselves now, but the employment system has been some sort of welfareism system. For
their cronies, huh?
For their cronies and allies. So they have far much more in personnel than they truly need. So let's not see a situation whereby what the local governments are really getting might not really be sufficient at the end of the day, and state governments may be reluctant to support, given that, you know, they'll say, well, you have your independence now, go and deal with it. So I still think that while this is a great step forward, there needs to be closer attention paid to what is happening at that particular level for people to, you know, be aware, be interested in what is happening there. Know how much, for instance, is accruing to your local government per month. And I think the local government chairman, if they really want to do well, should now begin to say, look, this is how much we're getting per month, this is how much our salaries are, this is what we have left for capital expenditure. So there needs to be more demand of good governance at that particular level.
I mean, some quick takes from you on that matter, because first, if any state doesn't want to support the local government area because of this, I think it will just be biting the nose to spite the face, because it won't even be reasonable if you were to try that. But there has to be that financial transparency. Both probably the NFIU, the anti-corruption agencies have also got to zoom in to local government. There has to be proper reporting lines, accountability lines, to make sure that whatever goes to those states are properly accounted for. It's not for you to go and share the money for local governments. It's not for you to go buy a new house, marry a new wife, buy new cars. Local government chairman, that is not what this is meant for. So as FG allocates those funds to local government areas, I think they themselves do well to also publish how much goes to who and where, so that everyone knows, because the media themselves, I mean, we also need to beam our searchlight on local governments. Let's know the names of local government chairmen. Let it all be out there, because now they've got no excuse. And you can't allow touts to be your local government chairman. Take an interest, participate, go out there. It doesn't have to be the big ruling parties. Little parties, if you have somebody in your locality who is strong enough, go in there. And maybe, what if INEC conduct elections in local governments in the country?
Yeah, there's that demand already. But who knows? I think that we need to put more pressure on the CX
to do the
better.
right things.
To do better.
Well, maybe it might take another law, another Supreme Court to do that for us. So we're back in a moment, everyone. Don't go away.
How does double digits affect your purchasing power? What about ballooning debts profile and scarce FX? How's that affecting your business?
The federal government is turning to the money market to fund its deficits. Are yields contracting or expanding? Is this a good buy for you?
Inflation drives MPC decisions and affects sentiment at the equities market. What is happening to your investment?
Or would you rather go digital? We track all the volatility in the crypto market.
Get the answers from the business team every weekday at 1 p.m. on Business Incorporated, only on Channels Television.
Africa's stories become world stories.
Every system of government has oligarchic tendencies.
Network Africa is your one-stop shop for news on the continent.
Cholera is highly dangerous and can kill within a day.
Join us weekdays at 4 p.m. right here on Channels Television.
All right, welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Yes, indeed, we're focusing on the Agric sector, food, big subject matter. And we'll have here with us Senator Ali Yusabi Abdullahi, who is the Minister of State for Agriculture. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Good morning, Mokpe.
Good morning.
Pleasure to be here.
Minister. Good to see you.
Yes, indeed. Yes. We know that we won't have enough time today, so we'll just do what we can while we can, because there's several issues about food. Food inflation, food security, food import tax, so many. So first of all, we'd like to hear from you. What is going on in the sector? There are several dissatisfied people out there about the agri sector in terms of what's happening to food security.
Well, thank you very much. Let me first say that, yes, you are right. There are so many things out there. And you realize that those things happening out there are more or less like a global thing. The global food system is definitely in a shock, is witnessing a lot of shock as a result of so many factors. The Russia-Ukraine war is one of the key culprits, and then the aspect of climate change. But beyond that, our concern is Nigeria. And so we are aware fully that definitely the food inflation is a serious issue. Yeah. There are so many things around the aspect of people not having food or having capacity to have food as they want. Now, let's break it down. When you say food security, of course, you are talking about certain things combined. A person is said to be food secure if food is available to him or her, if that same food is accessible and then affordable and in the right nutritional content. So I would say very clearly that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu understands the issues even as they are unfolding. And that explains why it is one of the top priority area of our government intervention. And in this area, I would say you will see a lot of programs or a bouquet of activities taking place just to dampen and try to create the situation.
Maybe we should zero in on some of those programs because, for instance, food inflation, according to the statistics, are about 35%, so to speak. So what specifically is government doing to address that?
All right, so you see, why is it so? That's the question you ask. To an extent, there are some components of food that are available, there are some that are not available. If we talk about availability in terms of, yes, you will get it in the market, but it's not sufficient. And so, because of the simple law of demand and supply, you will get, the price going, up. Now, what we have done is definitely to look for a way of increasing supply. And that explains why there was this distribution of, rice, which has taken place in the past few months. There was also distribution of, food from our reserve, about 42,000 metric tons of
people say that the reserves are actually empty. There are no grains in.
Well, there is one thing you should understand one thing. When you say reserves are empty, that is just, being too clinical. every reserve, where you keep taking out and you are not putting back, what do you expect? So what we are doing right now is that, yes, we've taken some out, and already there is plan ongoing to restock. But you know, that restocking will only take place when harvest comes on board. Now, the last harvest, you couldn't have gone to the market, because if you go to the market, you are now going to further increase the price, and that means affordability issue to so many people. So we are looking at all of this. It's a very technical thing also, and we are looking at it from that particular angle. But let me say quickly here that what we have done from last year dry season is to increase our dry season farming, unlike before, which we have done with the wheat program.
Is that actually, what figures here? Because I also saw many complaining that the so-called plan for dry season farming didn't even happen.
No, it happened.
The fertilizer distribution went to political farmers, not the actual farmers.
Well, I will tell you for a fact that myself and Senator Abubakar Kyari, since we came on board, have been upbeat about wanting to edge out portfolio farmers and political farmers. We are politicians, yes, but you shouldn't play politics when it comes to food.
So did you have data of the actual farmers that got all of
When we came on board, yes, we have data of farmers that have gotten all of this. Because what we have done is to say that the National Agricultural Growth Scheme Agro Pocket Program is what we are using. And currently, as we speak, farmers are receiving various inputs being distributed to them as the season is ongoing. Now, the one we did for the dry season, our target was 120,000 hectares, and we're able to do 118 plus 1,000 hectares. And that was for wheat. We also did some for maize, some for rice. Now, this rainy season, we are targeting basically the food commodity crops, rice, maize, millet, sorghum, cassava, and soybean. So let me say this. You see, we realized over the past years, we have not been taking our dry season farming very seriously. And you cannot just depend on rain-fed agriculture and be food secure. And that explains why the president said, look, with the current rate of mechanization, which is put at about 0.27 horsepower per hectare, there's no way our farmers can be able to produce enough. So we are having currently in the works a lot of mechanization program. The Greener Hope mechanization program is there. The Green Imperative mechanization program is there. The Belarus National Agric mechanization program is also there, where we intend to bring on board more than 2,000 tractors in the first instance. And the other ones too, the target is 10,000. Now, all of this is designed over a period of time to be able to raise the productivity of our farmers by removing the drudgery associated with farming. Okay? But what I want to say here is that while we are talking about these sustainable programs, our major concern right now is how do we stabilize the food system?
I think that's a big question, because really, when this conversation was about to start, I was just looking at the fact that I'm the only woman here. And I think that, women tend to have a very sharper perspective when it comes to food and pricing.
But you enter our pockets, so we also...
And the figures don't lie.
Yes, the figures don't lie, so we know.
The figures do not lie.
Yes.
I'm not talking about the figures, the big figures now. I'm talking about the prices.
Yes.
The money you actually spend in the market.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that if you speak with any woman right now, or anybody who has
even in my house.
Exactly. What you will be told is that the price of every yam now is a luxury. For many people, it's no go. They've substituted it with sweet potatoes. I think only recently,
the Irish potato price is coming down.
Exactly.
And that is the point.
I'm glad that some of these things you're aware of. Yes, Irish potatoes, but it got ridiculously high to as much as 18,000 naira.
Yeah.
Eggs are almost out of the reach of common people. I mean, one egg is 200 naira. It's unbelievable. A crate of eggs now is going to about 4,800 naira
because of the high cost of feed.
So what I want to know is some of these things, when you sit down and you look at the price of common commodities, yam, beans, rice, gari, you know, how are you able to relate what is happening? Because the first thing you told us was that there's global shock. I'm wondering, hold on, there's been global shock many, many times. How is that affecting, you know, what our local farmers are able to do locally? Because initially we're told it was insecurity. That was what has caused our own, you know, food insecurity.
It's a part of it. It's a part of it.
But we have since been told that there's some work going on in that particular area. How is it not translating to lower prices of food in the market?
Let's get one thing clear. You see, agriculture has time frame. Now, a lot of production is ongoing currently. We're in the rainy season. And if you look at the fields, there's a lot of cropping going on. Those croppings are not food. They will only translate to food after like 3 months, depending on the period in which they take to, you know, get, you know, it to be harvested. So until then, definitely this story that you are talking about will continue, because are we having enough? It's not all the food that we reserve, for example. It's only the cereals, the staples, that are very easy to be reserved in our, what do they call it? And that's why, definitely as a program, as a government, the aspect of post-harvest, for example, is a major issue. And we are looking at so many programs now that will help us to intervene in the post-harvest sector, where, for example, just like you rightly said, the price of you know, Irish potato has come down because harvest has started. Now, that of, you know, so many other commodities will continue to come down as the harvest period come on board. That will take some time. So, and that explains why, until that happens, you are taking stories, because for the Nigerian, he's talking about now, this very minute. And so we admit there is a problem, but then what are we doing to solve the problem? That is what is important.
Okay, so one of the things we heard was that the federal government has, you know, removed, is it duty tax? I'm trying to find the particular, because we've seen a response to that particular that particular story from none other than Mr. Additional, you know, who is quite worried about his duty-free food import policy, depressing. Additional tells federal government. I think if that is in response to the federal government policy to remove duty tax
to open a window. What government is looking at is the president is deeply concerned about this issue of food availability to the citizens. When he wakes up, he feels very concerned and worried. So the question is, while we have done a lot of all of these works I'm telling you, it's not going to translate into food immediately as it is. So what would the president have to do? So he's looking at the possibility of having some food to be imported within this lean period. That's why it's not just an open blanket thing. And right now, the guidelines that we go around it is being worked out, because it's a policy pronouncement you've just had. But the guidelines around it will be worked out, because we are aware if you allow free import, then you are definitely going to have a negative effect on your production potential that farmers will be going into, in the sense that it will dampen the price. And next year, they will not have to produce. So you will now have a cyclical problem. To avoid that, that is why those policy guidelines will come out very soon, to guide this,
so,
you know,
at the moment,
window.
we don't know how long.
No. He's talking about 150 to 180 at most days. Now, the aspect is that, you know, naturally in our normal cycle, the lean period, that is the rainy season, usually witness a lot of low supply until that production harvest started. Then you will now see the prices coming down. But because we've already had the hangover effect of those early crises, remember in 2001, 2002, we had flooding, a lot of rice fields.
You mean 2020? So 2020?
2020 up to 2021. There were a lot of those.
You said 2001.
Sorry, 2021.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, 2020 to 2021. Yes, you are right. So that hangover effect, you see, when you have a crisis, it will take you some time before you are able to return back to normalcy.
Yeah, but there was also speculation, and you can confirm or deny this, that part of what also affected us was that because our currency also fell, whatever harvest we had, you know, we found that neighboring countries were coming into Nigeria to buy off a lot of our produce. And our farmers were happily selling,
Yes,
you know, not
well,
knowing that this was going to affect
that is
us.
true, but you saw government response.
What was government response?
Government response was to try to abate that, and that happened.
Yeah, but if that already happened, so we're not going to go back and buy food that, you know, other people came here to buy because of the value of our currency.
Well, the issue is simple. You see, like I said, you are dealing with a particular time, point in time. Right now, as we speak, you've given me, you said the data's don't lie. People are hurting. People need food. No, so what do you have government have to do? I've told you programs we are doing. Right now, as we speak, this rainy season, there's a massive support going on. Fertilizer distribution is ongoing for farmers to be able to, increase their productivity by applying it. But are they going to get fertilizer to eat now? No. Are they going to get food from that? No. Until the next 2-3 months. So in this lean period, what do? You must take action. There's this saying that a mother, when she comes home and sees her children hungry, she will definitely find a way to look for a solution.
So that's what's happening now.
For right now, the president is deeply concerned, like I said. When I mean deeply concerned, because his vision for Nigeria is that no man or woman, no Nigerian should go to bed hungry. That's the kind of nation he wants to see.
Honorable Minister, I want to ask you whether you see some of the reports, that make their way into the dailies. Yeah. There's a special report done by Premium Times talking about how Jigawa villagers are linking declining farming outputs, urban drift to abandonment of dam. Did you see that particular story?
Well, I've heard about it, but let me say one thing. Sometimes people give report just to bring out the negatives. Jigawa state government is right now in the process of clearing some very silted waterways. They've done more than 50 kilometers. Desilting waterways that were formerly occupied by some pest, which we call typha grass. They've done that, and that has increased the capacity of farm production in that state. So I don't know which part of the state, I don't know which part of the state they are talking about. I'm not saying that Jigawa state has problems, but they are doing their best to situate. And that's why even in the wheat farming program, they contributed, we gave them 40,000 hectare target, and they ended up doing 55,000 or even more.
Only recently, too, the president went to Niger State to commission tractors. Yeah. Was supposed to have a very positive effect on farming. Now, some people went to Niger State and they saw a number of those tractors still at the airport.
That is their
overgrown
story.
With weeds.
Remember, that is not correct. I have right here, I have a video of these tractors in the field working as it is.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, it's not a question of that is theirs. The people who took the pictures, they're not, it's actually in their own interest to try and cover up what they saw. This was what they saw, that some of the tractors were still there, unused. I mean, at the airport, with weeds, overgrowing some of those tractors.
How many number did they see?
When you're talking about, I can actually send this picture to the MCR so you can see what it is, or I can send it to you, so you can see what it is that I'm talking about. It might not be a big number, it might be a small number, but the tractors were there nonetheless. So there are questions as to the plans that governments usually have when they award these contracts for the importation of tractors. What exactly is the plan to get those, mechanized instruments to the hands of the farmers who truly need them so that they can contribute towards food security?
Well, let me say the Niger State program is actually a massive program.
What did you call it?
I say it's a massive program.
Massive? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. From Niger State, I just remembered.
Yes. To Niger State we have 76,000 square kilometers of land. Obviously the largest arable land in Nigeria. So what the governor is doing, right now, they are in the field. They are working. I don't know what time those, what did they call it, the pictures were taken. But as I speak to you, I'm aware. I've been in the state myself. I went home, coming back, all over the field. As at the last time I spoke, I know they've planted more than 250,000 hectares. And their target is, they're still ongoing. So for me, as far as I know, it was not just brought for the photo ops. They brought these things because there is a massive program under a special purpose vehicles that was created. That is Niger Foods, government enabled but private sector driven. I think it's important for people to know that the program in Niger State is government enabled but is private sector driven.
That's state government enabling?
Yes, it's state government enabling it, but then it's private sector that is driving it.
No, but when you say private sector, what exactly is the plan of the private sector to get those tractors to?
They are already in the field right now working. That's what I'm telling you. They are in the field working.
Okay, I guess we'll follow up and see.
You see, the tractors are meant for what? For clearing the land, but also for planting, for spraying, for so many activities. Okay. And as I speak to you, I have a video here that shows that clearly.
Yeah, we've seen some, of course. Yes. Some of those tractors are there, but they say some others are also there. So
that's what I'm saying. I don't know what time. I don't know what time they took the pictures.
We'll just double check with that one. But could you tell us, if you say the president has been worried and still is, so does it mean then, and then we're importing food for that window, does it then mean that we didn't achieve much with the state of emergency that was declared by the president about a year ago?
Well, let me tell you one thing. You know, a lot has happened, and a lot will still happen. But are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. That's why it's still an emergency. And that's why a lot of activities are being put in place. For example, like you were saying earlier, we have a special program that is actually, doing the details about all these things and what needs to happen at what stage. And as we speak, what we intend to do through the various programs we're having in the ministry is to ensure that we are going to have an all-year-round farming activity. Increase our dry season farming through irrigation. So we're increasing our potential to use irrigation to farm a lot of these areas so that back to back, we are having harvest, we go back to production. You have harvest, you go back to production. The idea is to stabilize the system, and that will take some time. Because before now, remember, it's only the rainy season. As at the time the emergency was declared, it's only rainy season. Rainy season is not sufficient to tackle the problem of Nigeria's food supply. It's not sufficient.
Is there any plan in place, price control mechanism, so that these prices don't keep going off the roof?
Yes. As part of the guarantee minimum price mechanism, all of those things are part of the guidelines being worked out along this, what did they call it, window that we are talking about. Because what government will do in this kind of situation is, fine, by the time you bring in this for the lean period, at least you don't want your people to starve. So you are bringing in food for this lean period. Thereafter, what happened? If it's going to have a dampening effect, then you have to step in, uptake the food at a price that encourages the farmer to go back to production next year. So those things are being worked out right now. That is the guaranteed minimum price you are talking about. So we are aware, and that is why, yes, the concern by the president of the African Development Bank, it's true. Economically, when you talk about economics of agriculture, that is correct. If you keep importing, then those who are on the ground, perhaps your import will be cheaper. Theirs will be more expensive because of the factors of production. Then at the end of the day, they'll feel, well, there is no need for me to go back.
When do we
we are aware of
expect
all of this.
The results for all of these things that are being worked out?
As it is, I cannot give you a time frame as we speak, because I know a lot is happening based on this pronouncement, in the sense that the idea is to be able to do that. And even if you say go and import now, there is a window, time frame within which the movement of the food itself from the source into the country has a time frame. So all of these things is being worked out. And beyond that, we are also preparing for the end of harvest or the period of harvest. But most importantly, for next dry season again, because we've had the first one, we've seen the area, success we have recorded. We've also seen the areas where we have problem, and all of this is being taken into perspective so that we come massively prepared. The last experience we had, one of the challenges we had was irrigation in terms of the cost of fuel. So to that extent, government is intensifying its effort to have, solar-powered irrigation systems, so that way the price of, what did they call it, providing the irrigation services.
Are we subsidizing any aspects of agriculture in this country?
I would say subsidy or support.
What's the difference?
Well, I don't know, but to me, when you say subsidy, people tend to think
support.
in the negative.
Which aspect
but
are
we are providing support. First, we are providing training to extension agents, farmers, because it's one thing you have the tractors, it's one thing you have the seeds, it's another thing again for the farmers to have the capacity using good agricultural practices to do the right thing so that they can get the right output. So we are providing massive support on that. We are providing support in terms of inputs such as seed, quality seed, like the president said in his manifesto, plant the right seed, feed an entire nation.
I'm just a little curious as to whether this policy, this importation policy is going to really have an effect on, the prices, because what you're actually trying to do is bring down the prices. Isn't that correct?
That is one of the
You're
areas.
hoping that
But remember, the other micro economic and physical issues also are being tackled at a different point.
Okay,
it's not my area of bid, so I cannot even speak about that.
The idea is that when there is more than enough supply in the market, it should bring down the price. But looking at the fact that our currency has weakened somewhat when you compare it with the currency of other neighboring countries, it doesn't look like that might exactly be the solution.
But I think we are stabilizing.
Has there been any real calculation to see what exactly we need to bring in and at what price, and for it to be able to actually affect what is currently on board?
Those are the works I said we are currently having, because you see, when you make a policy...
You're still having it?
Of course, definitely. When you make a policy pronouncement, then a lot of things have to happen.
I
like I said, there must
the
be some
policy pronouncement was made on these calculations.
Well, it's made on this calculation to an extent, but then you also need to have it right, because now you want to, dive in. And when you want to dive in, you have to make sure that you are not diving into sharks.
Ayo.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain and Maupem. Perhaps, Senator, one of the challenges that we're not really looking at here now is the logistics. Looking at all the initiatives that we've taken, to try to stem the tide. Look back, just maybe not too far away, maybe just from, say, even 2011. The agricultural transformation agenda of the government of the day aimed at increasing agricultural productivity and reduce food imports. We know where we are about that time. That also informed the previous government coming up with what they call the Anchor Borrowers Program, which, of course, we all know what has come out of that as well. So it's not that we haven't had initiatives over time. What would you say? Okay, maybe I should ask it this way. Has government been able to track what the real problems are? Because it's not a dearth of ideas. Even the previous government came up with the Economic Sustainability Plan, and an integral part of that program was agricultural intervention, was food productivity. Have we been able to track what the real problem of these initiatives are?
Thank you very much, Ayo. Let me say here that, yes, I'm aware of all those programs. I was in the Senate, so most of these things, we also saw them as committee members. But let me say that what we need to understand is, for example, the idea of food security is you ensuring that food is available. But not just available, accessible to the person, because if there is food in Nigeria and it's not in my town, it's not accessible to me. So, and if I go to market and I cannot be able to buy with the money I have, then it's not affordable to me. And remember, it's not just to go and buy corn and come back and eat. You should be able to buy, a nutritious food so that on a continuous basis, you are able to eat and have sufficient energy to have a clear mind and so on and so forth. So all of these things are the things we are now looking at more detailed. Now, like you rightly said, the idea of increasing productivity of Nigerian farmers has to come from so many factors. One, they have to have the right seed. And I will tell you that as at the time we came on board, we met a seed system that is more or less almost on its knees. And as we speak this year, all our research institutes have been given the target to produce the right breeder seed.
Senator, just 1 second.
And also
I'm not sure that you're answering my question. The question that I'm asking is, these initiatives are amazing. They are, just as you said, they are good initiatives. They are initiatives that you're aware of.
Yes.
The agenda has always been exactly what you're talking about, make food available for the people. So what is it that has hindered them from achieving the results? Because if we do not track the problems,
that's what I'm trying to tell you. The first stage, Ayo.
Yes. Go ahead.
The first stage, let me tell you, the first stage is that farmers need to have the right seed, that right seed that they will plant, so that they will have a higher yield per hectare. And I'll give you an example. If farmers are getting 2 tons per hectare, will you compare them with a farmer that is getting 20 tons or maybe 10 tons or 9 tons? So the whole idea is that, yes, we have farmers who go to field, but what are they making? They are making some very low yield. So you need to do everything you can to increase their yield. Now, the first stage is the seed that they plant. Are they planting the right seed, or they are just planting just anything they call seed? And I'm saying that you said, have we been able to understand where the problem is? And that's what I'm telling you. As part of the first thing we have understood is the fact that there is a problem with the seed system. And I said we have fixed that now. Right now, all the people involved in the seed, the National Seed Council, the Research Institute, the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, they are now working in cohort to make sure that this right seed is going to continuously made available to our Nigerian farmers.
But that is
number one.
Just a second, Senator. That is at the end of the chain. Back in time, you would remember. Just a second. I'm coming somewhere. I'm coming somewhere, Senator. I mean, you're talking about the farmers, and that's okay.
All right.
But it's not that the farmers haven't always been there. They've always been there. Since the 60s, they never went on break. But at some point, we turned our eyes away from the farm. Now we're struggling to go back there. The farmers have always been there. They never went on break. So what is it nationally or even at the state level that we stopped doing that we need to get back to in terms of soft or hard infrastructure? Otherwise, Senator, we will still be talking about this thing for another 10 years.
I understand the issues you raised, Ayo. I think if you'll be patient with me also to give you, because one statement will not provide the answer you want. I have to take you through the entire meal. What I'm saying here is that the beginning of every agricultural operation has to do with, okay, first, even land preparation. The current land preparation is done using what? Hoe and cutlass, manually, and so on and so forth. And that's why I said what we are having right now as mechanization is 0.27 horsepower per hectare. Meanwhile, even in Africa, the average is 1.7 horsepower per hectare. So how do you expect a farmer to be able to be productive? And I'm saying that because you understand that problem, government has come up with a very robust mechanization program. That's the first one. The second aspect is seed. If you don't plant the right seed, you are not going to get good yield. Yes, you've gone through the 4 months of your work in the farm, but at the end of the day, you end up with 2 tons per hectare. But somebody who did the right thing, using the right seed, having the right knowledge and skills, when to plant, when to apply chemicals and all those other things, agronomic practices as we call it, he is very knowledgeable on those things. He is getting 5 tons, 6 tons per hectare. So we understand where these problems are, and we are all frontally attacking these issues. But beyond that also, even when it comes to harvest, some farmers will have very large fields. By the time they start harvesting, they are not able to finish in good times, and a lot of things happen to those things. We are also thinking now of bringing in harvesters. Right now, as part of the mechanization program, there are combined harvesters that are being brought on board. In fact, this was used in the last dry season farming for wheat, where combined harvesters was used to help farmers to harvest their wheat. So those are the issues that we are taking one after the other. And it is when you do this that you can guarantee that the farmer is going to have a good harvest.
Okay.
But beyond that, we are dealing also with post-harvest losses.
Well, Senator,
because of this, we don't
have much time, but you know, a number of things keep bugging my mind. On the one hand, you've just talked about post-harvest loss now. And studies indicate that post-harvest losses in Nigeria can range from between 20% and 50%. What happens is that the farmer is going to put the cost on the only part that he's going to sell. That's on the one hand. So that's 50% lost. Then there is a cost of logistics. That can range between 30 and 60%, depending on distance and a number of other logistics. Now, that leads to the question of what the states can do in this regard. If the states are able to intervene in the area of logistics and have specializations for each state, a good amount will be saved from that percentage of logistics. So if for your state, for instance, can produce all that it needs, it doesn't have to go too far. And if there is enough partnership between the states, some of that logistics is also taken care of, on the one hand. On the other hand, you've just talked about the fact that there is post-harvest losses now. Is there a role for states to come up with all of these storage systems? Because you can't govern from the federal government and expect that all of these things are just going to go hunky-dory.
Absolutely.
So what is the partnership
But
plan?
let me give you what is happening. Right now, as we speak, there is Produce for Lagos initiative, which Lagos state government has an agreement with Kebbi State for the issue of rice, and they also have with Niger State now, just to justify the point you have made. So I agree with you, and I think in our engagement with states as we speak, definitely all of these things are beginning to take place. And that is why you will see many of the state governments are now coming on bullish with respect to their programs in agriculture. They are paying more attention to the issues around those things you have spoken about.
Okay, so could you talk to us, because you spoke about those Agric extension agents.
Yeah.
And then if you could shed a little more light on those states, because many still like to know how are these Agric agents being trained and where are they going to be attached to in the states? What's the partnership or collaboration between government and states?
All right, what we have looked at here is that extension agents are operating at the local level. So for every program that we are promoting, we have provisions for training of extension agents that are based in the state. And remember, in the state, they are also based in the local government where the farms are. So for every program, we identify the number, provide training for them. The National Agricultural Research Extension Liaison Services, NERLS, is the specialist agency for that. And we use that venue to provide that training. And usually we first do it as a train-the-trainer. So that way, because you cannot take the entire, country at a time. So for each particular commodity, when we have a program that we are running, we bring all of these, what we call subject matter specialists, train them, and then they go back again and train more extension agents on the ground. But then we also realize the ratio of extension agent to farmer is still something that many farmers will not have the required information. So right now, we are currently working on an e-extension program that we're going to develop an app that will be translated into the major languages so that farmers will be able to access information and knowledge to guide their operation.
For those who say they plan to protest food shortage, food inflation, probably next month, what can you say about what is government expectation? What target from the farming that is going on now that will get into the market, and how is it expected to impact food inflation?
Well, let me say this. I know for a fact that given what we have experienced, we are definitely making plans to ensure that we reduce the post-harvest losses, because it's about mopping up. When you don't take these, products from the farmers when they needed it to be taken up, and it goes bad, it automatically reduces what is available. So government is taking this very seriously. We have silos. Remember, we've taken our things in the silos in batches, and so we need to get back to restock. Now, in doing that, definitely government will come out with, a specific explanation on this to ensure that farmers don't get bad price. Because one thing is certain, if a farmer gets good price, it encourages him to want to go back to farm. But if after suffering, you come back and you're not able to make anything, definitely you will not want to go back. So we are aware of that, and government will do all in its capacity to ensure that we rather encourage more people to go back to farm as it is, because this year, I will tell you, a lot of people have gone back to farm. I've traveled from Ilorin by road to Abuja just like about 5 days ago. And the entire fields, left, right, honestly, is all
Okay, are you disappointed that the livestock ministry is being created? Some say should have been under the Ministry of Agriculture.
Well, Mr. President has shown great concern about the livestock sector and would like to see it developed. He has made a pronouncement, and I believe that's a vision, and we're supporting that vision.
Senator Ali Sabi Abdullahi, Minister of State for Agriculture, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me. Business
Morning on Sunrise 80 with Laddie Williams is up next.
Hello and welcome to the first trading day of this week right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's get to the top stories that set your agenda now. We see oil prices are down right here to start the week. In early trade, $84.48 that we have for Brent crude there, 0.7%, a big drop from the gains we saw last week. But we see WTI crude looking like it's flirting with that $80 psychological level at this point. $81.65 a barrel, also down 0.7% this morning. Let's get a check on the FX market quickly because we know that's what brings in FX to Nigeria. So we see weakening, that's for the marginal weakening there for NAFEX, 0.06% down. That was a close for last week. And we see NAFEM there, there was a gain of 0.59%. Closing at 1,563 naira to the dollar from a previous close of 1,554 naira. Then we see NAFEX also closing in this 1,506 range. So definitely we did see a mixed bag last week, but we saw intervention from the central bank last week. Let's see if that's going to spill over into the performance of the naira for this week. All right, let's get a check on all the stories now. We see the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kaide Adeolu Egbeto Kunz, ordered an immediate suspension of the proposed enforcement of the ECMR initially scheduled to commence July 29, 2024. And I'm feeling a lot of relief right now because I was going around Google trying to understand how it actually works. But now that's suspended. They're giving vehicle owners until July 29 to register for the digitalized central motor registry, ECMR, which costs about 5,375 naira per vehicle. The announcement was made in a statement by Lumiwa Adejobi, Force Public Relations, on behalf of the Inspector General of Police. So if you've been worried about that, you can relax for now. All right, to agriculture now. See Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of African Development Bank, says the federal government's decision to suspend duties on taxes on imported food commodities is depressing. Speaking on the theme, food security and financial sustainability in Africa, the role of Mr. Adesina said the plan would only address short-term food price hike in the country. Last week, we did see the federal government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, announce plans to allow duty-free importation of food items such as maize, rice paddy, wheat for 150 days as part of measures towards stabilizing the prices of items. And we've been trying to find out here what the Agric ministry, is doing about food inflation at over 40%. And we did hear right there, Minister of State for Agriculture, right there on Sunrise, talking about the plans the ministry has for agriculture at this point. But we all want to see food prices come down, at this point. I'm tired of seeing really small yams for about 7,000 naira per tuber. Nobody wants to buy that, at this point. And we see yams being cut in pieces and tomatoes and all of that. So definitely we need food prices to come down. All right, the fight against food inflation, that's still raging on, at this time. As I said before, over 40%. We're expecting inflation numbers for today. So I wonder what food inflation is going to be at this point. But there's another aspect of agriculture with prospects for creating wealth. Well, joining us now to help us break this down is Dr. Mrs. Moji David. She's a co-founder, Extra Large Farms. Dr. Moji, you can come forward right here into my set. Definitely so much happening with food right now. And I know that you are a farmer at this time. And it's great to have you join us on the show today.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in agriculture right now. There's food insecurity, and I know there's some investors out there that'll be saying, you know what, is agriculture still where I should put my money into you know, at this time? And we know some people don't really want to get their hands dirty, you know, with agriculture, but they still want to invest. So talk to me about, you know, what you're seeing so far.
Generally, we as farmers at extra large farms, we believe that that's the only thing we know how to do. So even if the whole world is coming down, we still have to do what we've got to do. People have got to eat, you know. And just like you were saying before concerning the inflation rates, you know, and food insecurity in Nigeria is already becoming a big challenge, and we all need to do something about it. But we at extra large farms strongly believe that agriculture is not wearing such a very good apparel right now. It is so unattractive. It is so frustrating. Nobody really wants to, you know, get too involved because of all the challenges around it. So we have put it as an assignment, as a burden upon ourselves to first wear a new apparel for agriculture in Nigeria by, you know, making it fun, making it attractive, and then showing people the profitable sides of it. Because to be honest with you, not everything in agriculture is profitable. So we are here to let people know. We've been in agribusiness now for the past 16 years, to the glory of God, and we are basically into staple food productions, your beans, your, you know, your yam, your oils, you know, your curry.
And I keep hearing about extra large foods, you know, at this time. It seems you guys are really making waves when it comes to most of your foods. It seems
yes, because our foods are 100% natural. The way it's coming from the farm, no preservatives, no taste enhancers. Even from the farm, you know, the excessive use of chemicals, that is what is causing a lot of, you know, health issues for people around the nation today. So we take it up from there, and then we
I'm talking about, you know, extra large farms at this point. You have your resort and empowerment opportunity, you know, at this time. Talk to me about that.
Thank you so much. So I was talking about, you know, wearing a new apparel for agriculture. I'm very sure when we were talking that you were bringing a farmer, you know, into the studio, nobody was expecting somebody like me
dressed like this, right?
To be addressing him or herself as a farmer. So we start from there. We want to create, you know, a fun platform, a fun environment, you know, for people to be able to even first identify themselves as farmers, you know, and then we now take it up from there. And that's the reason for the establishment of the resort. So at Extra Large Farms and Resorts, you have, we are located on a large farm, thousands of acres of land in Ogun State, or Taidi Roko Road to be precise. And what we do is that we make you come to the farm for different reasons. It could be for holidays, it could be for, you know, your conferences, you know, corporate retreats, whatever, trainings, excursions, you know. But, you know, you come to the farm, so you already have a mindset about how a farm should be. So, but when you come, yes, you see everything up, cassava plantations, palm, yam, and all that. But you now see a better side of farming, letting you know that farmers are not the never-do-wells, you know, and that you can be a farmer and still live a very fulfilled life, you know. So that's the fusion of what we brought into it, and that is the tourism aspect of agriculture. And funny enough, it's a grossly untapped sector of our economy. You hear about agriculture, you hear about tourism, but you don't hear about agricultural tourism.
Because when you hear about tourism, you know, it's either you're talking about medical tourism, or you're talking about, you know, people going to have fun, you know, somewhere, tourist attraction and all of that. So how are you marrying agriculture and tourism?
So we bring you, what's tourism on its own? You know, it's the idea of leaving, you know, your immediate, you know, place of work or, you know, location and seeking to get out something in another place. So now you're coming to seek what agriculture has to offer. You understand? So the idea of you going to a farm and you're already thinking, oh, the mosquitoes are going to finish me today. There'll be no water. There'll be no roof over your head. So all that are things of the past. You come to a farm, you see what you should see in a farm. You have access to fresh food. But at the same time, you enter into your accommodation facility and you're beginning to think, am I really still in Nigeria? So, and we've seen that over the years, when people come to the resort, they come with a mindset. They just want to come and enjoy themselves. But when they're leaving, they're already having a burning passion for agriculture because they've seen it work here. They've seen the people talking to them about it. They are motivated and they want to do more. So that's our own way of preaching about agriculture. So we don't just throw it to your face, come and be a farmer, you know, but we bring you to a fun environment to see farming.
I'm trying to imagine the air, you know, around the resort.
The ambience, the serenity.
I remember as a kid, you know, going to the village, you know, back then, the air was always different, you know, from the urban center. Air. So is that the experience there? That's
the experience, but with a touch of professionalism, you know, international hospitality. For example, you see you're coming to a farm here, like I said, you see all the farm settlements and all that, but, you know, just a step 5 minutes away from the farm area, you have the first and only waterfall in the whole of the southwestern states, located right on our farm. You want to swim, for example, after a day's job, you have a very massive swimming pool that you can, you know, do your stuff.
Right there at the farm.
Right there inside the farm. You want to see a movie, there's a cinema in the farm.
Cinema at the farm.
There's a cinema in the farm. There's a gym in the farm. There's a spa in the farm.
What's the internet like at the farm?
Excellent. Excellent. There's excellent provision of internet facility and all that. You're sleeping on your bed and you're looking for your body. Am I still really alive or am I the other side?
Well, definitely love to experience that. But I heard you're having an agri-tourism summit, you know, at some point. Tell me what you expect, you know, from this summit and what people that might want to attend, what they can actually get from it.
All right. So the Agri-Tourism Summit is basically packaged to let people know the secrets, hidden secrets, wealth, money-making secrets in agri-tourism. So it's a fusion of agriculture and tourism. And at this summit, we're going to be presenting to people what they can do. Like I was saying before, it's a 31 trillion naira income generating untapped sector of our economy, and you know, of course, it's in its pioneer stage now because not too many people are, you know, are looking at that direction now. So we are inviting people to not just see agriculture, not just see all the challenges of agriculture. Let's look at it from another side, and then from that, even at the summit, as we're teaching people the opportunities, you know, that they can make, whether you have money, whether you don't have money, whether you have big money, you know, there's something for everybody. For example, for our home ownership programs at the resort, you know, we have a vision to attract minimum 1 million tourists to the farm annually. These people will need accommodation. They need to sleep over and all that. So people who are buying homes in the resort are already placing themselves on the line for a transgenerational wealth creation. We're teaching people how to become agri-tourism professionals. We're teaching people how to become excursion agents. We're giving people the opportunity to become liaison officers, ticketing officers with us in different places. So there is an opportunity. There is a platform, you know, for everybody to make money.
How big is this value chain?
You know, I was telling you just now that really it's about 31 trillion, you know, untapped. You know, so imagine if that can go around on about 10, 20, 50,000 people. It's really a lot.
And you know, definitely we keep hearing about insecurity, you know, the farmers not being able to go to the farms at this point. And definitely this is a different ball game. This is a resort that's heavily secure, I want to believe.
Yes. Thankfully, you know, like I said, we've been in Agric for 16 years, and to the glory of God, we've never had any insurgency, we've never had any attack and all that. Maybe because we're mostly located, all our farms are located in the southwestern regions. But at this particular resort, it's along the Otaidiroko Expressway of Ogun State. So that's an ECOWAS road. That's #1 security. So coming down along that line about from Covenant University of Winners, you know, traveling down that lane, you will find minimum 10, 15 checkpoints. You have the military, the soldiers, you have the mobile police, you have DSS, you know, there's every presence because that is the only road leading Nigeria, at least along that axis, to the other French-speaking nations. Apart from that, we also invest heavily in security to ensure that, you know, all our guests are, you know, well taken care of.
And definitely we're hoping that, you know, insecurity will become a thing of the past,
by
you know, in Nigeria, you know, at some point.
Yeah.
But I know investors want to know what they stand to gain. Before you pack your money into any investment, you want to know what the ROI, what possibilities are there?
Thank you so much. Let's start from the highest to the lowest, but I need them to take this number down now because the Agri-Tourism Summit is happening in 2 ways. We have the one coming up digitally virtually, and then they will have to come physically to the resort and be with us for 3 days, because there's a lot we want to talk about. We're going to talk about sack farming, which is a modern way of farming that will help our people, overcome the issue of labor, because labor is a major challenge now in agriculture. Is what we are facing as farmers. Nobody wants to work. That one is a very big problem. And then, accessing, market for your produce even after you have done all the rigors of going to the farm. So the number that they're going to send to attend the AG Summit, either you want to attend it virtually or you want to be with us for 3 days at the retreat, the AG Summit retreat coming up in August. The WhatsApp number, just send AG Summit to that number, 081. I want to believe it's displaying somewhere on the screen.
Right, just say it.
Yeah, 081 71 60 6021. So that's the WhatsApp number. I say one again, just send AG Summit, to 081 71 60 6021. And I was talking about, you were asking me about the returns on investment. Now, we have 10 different opportunities that we have laid down for people to be able to be part of this. So, for example, somebody wants to own a home in the resort. It will cost you about 30-40 million naira to own a complete home in the resort, and it's capable of generating about 40% annually. For example, I always give a very quick example. Let's say
you have some kind of Airbnb there.
Thank you. So when we're expecting 1 million visitors in the resort, it means that we're already generating a market for the homeowners. As people are coming to the resort, for whatever reason, for training, for their health, for holidays, for conferences and all that, they need accommodation. And as they are making use of the accommodation, the homeowners are making money. We have 52 weekends in a year, for example. Let's just imagine that your house is being, taken up for only 30 weekends in a year, which is just 60 out of 365 days, meaning you still have control over your house for the remaining 3 whole 5 days. Just 60 days is going to net you about 9 to 10 million naira.
Wow, that's funny.
Tell me where else you can have that kind of property,
nice figure.
Even in Lagos, apart from Banana Island, of course.
Right.
Plus, you still have, and this is not something you make just once or twice, and you're making it forever. Okay. And, there's something they say that the realest estate is the one you can see.
Right.
Not only is it generating money for you, you're creating an impact on the economy generally. You're providing jobs, for our teaming, unemployed youth and all that. And we are promoting agriculture together because, like I said, our own aim is to preach agriculture in a subtle way. So when they come to the resort for some other reasons, we'll make them now go to the farm, see that. The interest.
I'm up for tourism any day because it's not hot money. The money comes in and it stays.
Yeah.
So definitely that's a good one. The contact details are right there on your screen. You can tell them your social media handles at this point.
Yes, you can just search for us, Extra Large Farms and Resorts. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. On YouTube is Extra Large Farms TV on YouTube. But for those who are interested in, let me just do this. So for the virtual summit, it costs 100,000 naira for the virtual one, and it's in 2 classes. So, but for the first 100 people to send us that message this morning, they will not need to pay a dime.
Right.
Yes. Then for the 3 days retreat at the resort, cost them about 250,000. For the first 100 people also to send in that AG Summit this morning, we're going to allow them have a very nice time, yet be financially empowered as they come. So instead of paying 250,000, we're going to crash it down to you to 120. And if you agree to share a room with somebody, you can even pay as low as 60,000 naira for the 3 days, including your accommodation, feeding, and the training you're coming to.
Well, with the cost of living crisis, everyone wants a discount at this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was great having you, Dr. Moji Davids, co-founder, Extra Large Farms. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, so there you have it. We're going to be also drilling down on what to expect. We're expecting inflation numbers. That's coming out later today from the MBS. But we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll drill down on what to expect. Stay with us.
Navigating a challenging business landscape requires revitalizing your organization for sustainable success. Join Texam, UK's Professor Paul Griffith, the world's first professor of management, to lead a rocket launch at the Wheatbaker Hotel, Ikoyi, Lagos, from 17th to 18th July 2024 for a transformative 2-day session. This immersive Texam program, priced at 3,412,500 Naira after a discount, empowers senior executives with actionable insights for profitable growth. Leveraging interactive games, group discussions, and role play, Texam's proven methodology will elevate your strategic decision-making skills. Don't miss this opportunity to inspire competitive advantage and thrive sustainably amid economic uncertainty. Register now at www.texam.co.uk or call +44 7425 883 791 or exec@texam.co.uk. Texam, insights that inspire, actions that change the world.
Welcome back. Well, as I said before, inflation numbers for June, we're expecting that later today. For May, it was 33.95%. What's going to come for June? We'll get a sense of that and what to expect for the Naira this week. We have Damilare Shimi, who's a macroeconomic strategist, AfriInvest. Join me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Good morning, Laddie. Thanks for having me.
So definitely it's all about inflation at this point. We want to know if we can actually see some kind of cooling, at some point. We've seen all the rate hikes in the first half of 2024, but inflation still remains high. What are you seeing?
Yeah, thank you. So as regards expectation for, as regards AfriInvest expectation for the June inflation number, which is to be released in the coming days, we think that the year-on-year price reading will still track higher, surprisingly, right? TU, they're expecting it to moderate. We're expecting about 25 basis point increase at the base case scenario to about 34.3%. But based on our model suggestion, right, we think that the June inflation print, the uptick in June, might likely be the breaking point for the persistent rise that we have been experiencing for the last 18 months. We think that after June, should there be any major shock on the economy, we think that price levels should begin to moderate on year from July. But for June, we think it will track higher from 33.95 to 34.4%, largely driven by pressure, on both food basket and FX. In June, for instance, the FX at the official market lost about 1.4%. That will have a pass-through on general price level. We also observe that in that same month, Agric output, of course, due to persistent insecurity in most agrarian communities, Agric output prices went up. So the effect of this will tell on general price level, and we are not expecting anything short than a modest increase. In fact, we think the month-on-month reading will still be within the range of 2.1 to 2.4%. So which means that price level will remain elevated and perhaps slightly higher than the month-on-month reading in the prior month. So we don't see any moderation for June CPI numbers that will be published tomorrow or next tomorrow, whether year-on-year or month-on-month. But we think that we might have reached the inflection point for 2024 in terms of reading. We should begin to see a moderation barring a major shock.
Yeah, should actually release that data sometime today. I'm definitely looking out at a website for it. But, in your opinion at this point, where do you see inflation actually peaking, in Nigeria? Is this something we should even start thinking about right now?
Yeah, so if there is any major shock, we think that this June number that is set to be released will be the peaking point for this year, barring any major shock. So given the fact that we have a very high base from last year, since it said the inflation reading this one will be the 18th month of increase. So which means that inflation has been on the uprise since January 2023. So given that low base and the fact that month-on-month increases are beginning to slow down since February, when we last had it at 3.12. So we think that June number that is coming will be the peaking point. But that may not translate to improve purchasing power to an average household, which is where the question is, which is the most important aspect, because the moderation in year-on-year we're expecting will likely be driven by base year impact. But by and large, we think that with other programs that the government are planning to initiate, especially around food prices, we think that that may support inflation to track down beginning from July, and perhaps we think that we might see it dropping to about 29% level by December, which should bring average for the year to around 32%.
All right, definitely hoping for some kind of soft landing for this second half of 2024. But we know the MPC, they're going to meet again, and they're going to set the rates, definitely. What are you seeing? Because this is going to be data-driven at this time. What are you expecting for the next move by the MPC to actually tame inflation?
Yeah, so the MPC committee is expected to sit by the end of this month. Now, looking at our expectation for the June inflation reading, which we think will still move higher, we don't see the MPC cutting rates. So the probability of them also holding rates at this current level of 26.25 is about 60 to 40. 60 to 40 in the sense that we are beginning to see favorable dynamics in the external market. For instance, last week, the U.S. Inflation number was published, and it printed lower than anticipated, so which has further raised hope that the Fed might be thinking around rate cuts, maybe if not July, maybe in September. So if the external environment is beginning to look very favorable for Nigeria in terms of opportunity for carry trade or capital inflow, then we think that what the CBN might likely do as a probability is that they will keep rates steady at the current level. But should inflation print for June come in worse than 34.2 to 34.5, then the CBN might actually consider maybe another 50 basis point increase, so that it will help support expectation that inflation should begin to cool from July. But by and large, we think that if there will be any further increase this year in terms of MPR, this July meeting will mark the end, because all the parameters are suggesting that inflation should moderate, but the rate of moderation will depend on what the June reading is and what the general macroeconomic environment is looking like. If there is no major shock on FX such that it spiraled again to around 1,009 like we saw earlier in the year, then the CBN should not have any reason, the MPC committee rather should not have any reason to tighten rate further beyond July. So by and large, if there will be any tightening at all, we don't see any rate cut on the horizon, but if there will be any tightening at all, we think that we won't have more than a 25 basis point to 50 basis point, and that will largely be informed by higher print of CPI for June, above 34.5%. So below that, then the CBN will adopt a policy hold.
Right. Well, I wonder how much wiggle room the MPC have at this point. But thank you so much. Always great having your perspective. Damilare Shimi is a macroeconomic strategist at AfriInvest. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, let's get a quick check now on the close there for the local boss last week. That was a 0.35% down for the week. Sub 100,000 for the all-share index, and we see about 139 billion wiped out from the market just last week. So it's a brand new week, and definitely be looking out for how the local boss actually performs this week. That's it from me on Business Morning. We'll give you a summary of today's close later on. I hand things over now to the Sunrise Daily team.
All right, welcome back. Yes, indeed, we'll be talking about the oil sector, but Mr. Ademola Adegumo used to be the team lead for Facility for Oil Sector Transparency and Reforms. That's fostered the An intervention targeted usually at reducing corruption in the oil sector and promoting efficiency, but he's on his own now. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, looking at this sector, I know you heard all kinds of adjectives to describe the operations and how it goes, how many think that they just want to be in a cocoon all by themselves, doing whatever they can when they think they can. But there's been this supply chain challenge that's been going on in the country time and again, frustrating a lot of people. They don't understand why an oil-producing nation usually experiences these hiccups time and again. So give us your perspective in terms of, particularly with the most recent scenario that we've had here, what can you identify as the key challenge in that area?
Well, you have to be honest, it's price. I mean, it's not complicated. I mean, you remember that we used to have challenges with diesel, with kerosene and aviation for some many years ago. That market was completely deregulated, and everybody brings it now. Now, you have only one source of petrol now, NNPC. NNPC Limited is selling petrol at less than the price they are purchasing it. That causes disruption. Whenever you have a price in a market where the price is policy regulated, not market efficiency, you'll have supply chain problems. And that's why year in, year out, over the past 20 years, we've experienced it. Countries that don't have price issues always have petrol, except there's global problems of shipping.
But they never tell us that it's always price. They give us other reasons other than price. Even when they said it was deregulated, why is price still an issue?
Because we haven't completely deregulated. What we try to do is deregulation. But you see, every government tries to remove subsidy. They attempt to do it, then it comes back later on, it creeps in. Now, we had it with this government as well. We had subsidy removed when President Tinubu came in. And then the next week, we deregulated the foreign exchange market, and subsidy came back in again. Now, nobody else brings petroleum from NNPC Limited. Every other person brings in kerosene.
So now we'll still have subsidy?
I mean, being honest, we have subsidy. That's being honest.
Why do you think it has been so difficult for the NNPC to admit that this is the situation? Wow. Why do you think, not just the NNPC now, but also the federal government? Because, I mean, anybody who is watching the market, journalists, yourself, independents, anyone knows that, look, this is the current situation. Why has it been so difficult for either the management of the NNPC or for the ministers or for even the president to admit that this is the current situation?
If I knew the answer, I would say I knew the answer. But for NNPC, what I can say is this, and I said this before elsewhere, it's a victim of policy. When a policy of the government says, you know the law says NNPC must be the last import of last resort to guarantee prices and to guarantee supply. NNPC has no option in anything.
Now their first resort?
No, I mean, yeah, because they're the only resort. So NNPC has the burden of ensuring their supply. Whether it's $10, whether it's $25, they're buying it, they must tell at what the policy of the government is. So the issue is the policy.
The policy of government is that subsidy is taken out.
And that's why we have these complications. You say it's taken out, and then yet nobody else is bringing it in because, look, I can't access foreign exchange. But I bring in diesel, I bring in kerosene, I bring in every other thing. But to bring in petrol, I must make a profit. Even modular refineries in Nigeria, 5 of them don't produce petrol because, again, price. So if we had the right pricing, and I understand the complications around affordability for Nigerians, but I think, like you said, a degree of honesty will be okay. And say, look, this thing is actually costing $1.10 internationally. That's what it costs everywhere else. And right now, look at it, we're now consuming 63 million liters per day. When the prices are right, we consume 33, 34. But when the prices are wrong, we bring enough for Nigeria and enough for the other countries around us because they're going to buy from us. So what we buy, what we bring into Nigeria goes to the neighbors as well. So we put 35 million in Nigeria, which is what we consume averagely. Then the remaining 30 is subsidizing other countries. So it's your neighbors, it's 15, 17, 18. You're selling at 650, 610, 690. Well, it doesn't take you to be a genius to understand yours will go to where prices are higher. And that's the biggest challenge.
The ones that smuggle to the neighbors.
There'll be smuggling, which is the key thing. It's a natural phenomenon.
So what are you suggesting? If they were to fully deregulate, what would we have? What scenario would we have?
The problem, I mean, if we had a full deregulation, everybody would bring in some money suppliers. Even Dangote will have produced petrol first before producing other things. You know, he's still saying it's July, today's August, because again, he can't find the right pricing if he produces.
No, and he not about the right pricing. He's complaining about not getting crude.
I've heard that so many times. And I've always asked people, is it our job to provide crude for Dangote refinery that's owned by Dangote? If you were a land developer now, and you want to build some land development, would it be my job to provide you land? The first thing any businessman does is supply chain security. It's not Nigeria's job to provide him crude. I mean, I've seen sentiment around it. Okay, yeah, it's located in Nigeria, express free zone, but he went to the business. A businessman must guarantee supply chain before he goes into the business.
Yeah, but we thought that was taken for granted, in the sense that, one, even the NNPC, thought that this was will I say, a matter of security, a matter of national security. So they wanted to own stakes. It only came out yesterday that, as opposed to the 20% we thought the NNPC owned in it, NNPC now owns just about 7.5% stakes in Dangote because they could not pay the rest of the rest of their stakes when it was due. But we thought that was a matter of, it could have cited it in Ghana, it could have cited it anywhere else, Togo, Benin Republic, but in Nigeria, perhaps because it's a crude oil producing nation.
Maybe possibly, but again, remember that it's not even technically in Nigeria. It's in an export-free zone. Even Nigeria buying products from him will pay in dollars. It was to guard his own property and his own profitability that put him into free zone. And there were agreements reached by the government allowing him some waivers in that area. So technically, it could have been in Ghana for the way the market operates. It could have been in Togo. Now, correctly as you said, there must be expectations. But look, we're producing only 1.3 million barrels per day. Everybody has commitments of the oil. We have government commitments. We have governments, and government doesn't own all the crude we produce. Remember, the IOCs will take their own share of the crude oils as well, and they are not compelled to sell to Dangote. They can't. It's a free market thing. The PI says free market, free sale, free purchase. I can't be compelled to sell to you or to anybody. They must have the agreements they've had before Dangote came on stream. There are a lot of refineries around the world. They secure supply chain agreements. So I'll sell to the person who gives them the best deal. Now, NNPC might decide to give all its crude to Dangote at the right price. But NNPC's crude is even impaired by many reasons. The same NNPC has had to use 90,000 barrels per day to secure a loan for Nigeria, which was compelled to by government. The same NNPC has to guarantee the best supply of petrol, which has to use its crude to sell. Same NNPC is owed money by the government, over 2.2 trillion naira, as claimed by NNPC.
Who owns NNPC?
Who owns NNPC? Mopi and Mofi. So under the law now, NNPC is under KAMA. It's now a corporation limited by guarantee. That's what it's done. 50% of it is in Ministry of Finance Incorporated, 50% in Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated. That puts a significant burden on the corporation. I'm not speaking for it. I'm just saying this is the situation it faces. So when you run a corporation where now, if I make money, all the crude sales I make, I have to give to the central bank. If I do anything, government. So the government itself has not made itself clear on what NNPC should be.
Wait. Yeah. Is that happening now? Is NNPC getting all the petrodollar they make to the CBN? Crude sales now, when the parent about 4 months ago directed that all sales of crude should go to the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, technically in law, that is a violation of what a KAMA is, because the law says NNPC is custodian of Nigerian assets in some areas. Now, if I sell my crude and I have to give it to CBN directly, then I'll have to go to CBN and ask for costs back to me, which might be better for Nigeria. But operationally, it's difficult for NNPC to operate. So you find out that right now, they have to have ways to meet their financial obligations. So you say, in one hand, you free me by the law. In the other hand, you chain me by the law. If we had the PIE well implemented, maybe we would have been getting there slowly. But the PIE is implemented haphazardly. Nobody in government has really let go of NNPC, none of them, not one person. Well, they still use it as cash cow.
Well, because it's strategically important, there's a lot of fear, and it's a political leverage tool for governments, which is the reality.
I'm just wondering, what do you see as the way forward? Because right now we're in a conundrum. The price of petrol is high, because we thought it was being deregulated. We're in a situation whereby government is finding it very difficult to really let go because of what we've seen that the price can do to everyday goods, food, and on all manner of things, transport. Even as we speak, wages are yet to go up. We've not seen that, So right now, it does seem that we are all in a bind. What do you see as the way forward?
Well, I think we need to find alternative to petrol. That's the simplest way forward. Because the truth of the matter is what you said. Now, if we did market cost reflection of petrol, probably petrol would be 1,000 to 1,000. It's 1,000 plus outside Abuja. In Kano, it's over 1,000 already. I'm Maiduguri. Or maybe in Abuja and Lagos, it's 690, 670. And like you said, impacting everybody negatively, inflation and co. But then again, you have to be realistic. If you continue this, you get to 8.4 trillion end of the year as deficit on subsidy. which governments are admitting, but it's a reality. And it's a complicated structure in a country that's already broke. We already have economic challenges. The country doesn't have money. Our reserves is just 35 now, after a lot of time. The foreign exchange market, I mean, I watched the report before I came in. It needs stability. And your major source of earning is crude sales. We don't have we're not an export-driven country. We're a crude exporting country. So maybe the thing is, let's think about the CNG alternative we're doing. Maybe if more people go to CNG.
How sustainable is that going to be?
Well, it can be. It can be. We have gas. We're the eighth producer of gas in the world. Now, I bet it's free conversion.
Associated gas.
Yeah, I mean, no, even non-associated gas. We have a lot of gas. And we have the facility to do that. It's a lot of investment we don't have.
Yeah, so because that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that's a challenge. So that's why, again, when I watched some people saying, oh, repeal the PI, I'm thinking, what are you talking about? 21 years to get the PI to this level, and you repeal it? Well, amend it if they're case to amend it. But get that PI working. Bring investments in. Give it stability. People want to invest.
Why do we need to export our crude? Wouldn't it have been a way better option to refine crude locally?
It is a better option because in real terms, for every barrel of crude you export, you lose $1,000. And I'm talking pure petroleum
because
economics.
Of all the other...
Yeah, because a refined crude barrel, one refined, brings you 1,100% more than the crude value. So correctly, you said it. But the challenge is we have local refineries, a built-in capacity of 445,000 barrels locally. So even if we put all the crude in local refineries, taking out Dangote, we still have excesses to take on. So they encourage more refineries, encourage people to build more. And then now...
Sorry, are you saying as you presently are right now,
yeah,
even if we refine all that crude that we get here in this country, or do we have that capacity at the moment?
We can't. No, we can't. We don't have capacity. We can only absorb, as of now, based on the productions, about 45% of what we produce, based on the capacity of local refining. Now with Dangote, we get to about 1 million barrels locally if all the refineries were working at full capacity. That doesn't usually happen. So we probably have a spare of 300,000 barrels to think. But remember again that we have government agreements with countries. And again, we are part of a play on international markets. So again, it's a complicated thing.
What agreement do we have with them? To give them our crude to keep refining?
It's not for free. They pay money for it. But remember again that if this crude sales that is bringing a foreign exchange, now you refine locally, you have to now sell the products to get foreign exchange. So your biggest foreign exchange earner now is crude sales, 90%. No crude sales, you keep on borrowing. No crude sales, you keep on lower crude sales and lower prices, you keep on having issues.
Is that going to be sustainable, especially now that there's this global talk of de-dollarization? Saudi Arabia not renewing that 75-year agreement they've had. Countries are now saying, look, at the moment, we're just going to access crude in our own currency, which is the thing right now.
Yeah.
So
it's a worry. It's a worry. The 4 times we had economic contractions in the country, crude sales price fell. When the economy came out of recession, crude price has risen. So we're very dependent on it. Every government has said we want to have a change.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of investments, capital investments, education investments, infrastructure investments. We need to move there. You had the agricultural minister of state around as well. Now we're even importing food again. So a lot of problems
for a short window. This is going to be
150, 180 days. But the challenge is still that we don't have anything else we're selling to bring dollars in.
Yeah, so because there are several reports, I'm sure if you check it out, you'll also see them. Those who operate modular refineries also keep complaining they can't get crude in this country because all of them keep saying, if we prioritize ensuring that whether the modular refineries or local refineries get crude supply here, we reduce the pressure on Forex, and then we can channel some of this internally.
Well, let me challenge that with domestic modular refineries. There's something called a DCSO, Domestic Crude Supply Obligation, in the PIE. Under the PIE, the country must tell all crude sale people that we have domestic capacity supply, and that's priority number 1. So every year, the minister or the commission announces what the DCSO for Nigeria is this year. And everybody must give that first before you can take anything out. So if we think locally we'll need 7,000 barrels, that's the first obligation of everybody mining crude. So there's a DCSO. Now, if the commission is not doing that properly, then that's an issue. But DCSO is part of the PIE, and it must be done.
So clearly, it's not doing that properly because we spoke about Dangote refinery and how he has problems, getting crude supplies, and you said that ought not to be our problem.
Dangote is not part, technically, of the DCSO. Again, I want people to have a clarity about this. It's geographically located in Nigeria. Technically, it is not.
Because of the export processing.
Exactly. Because even when you are buying from Dangote as a country, if you're buying its products, petrol, diesel, you're going to pay in dollars. It doesn't have supply to the Nigerian market. It's an export refinery. It can sell to anybody it chooses.
What was the intention of NNPC taking 20% stake in the first
instance? Exactly what you said. The plan was to say, well, let's have some guarantee of security. Let's have some time of control, since our refineries are not working. But imagine again now, think about this. Borakot starts working. Warri 1 starts working. Kaduna starts working. We have enough crude supply of them. We don't. So the problem is still shortages of crude. We're not producing enough.
But I hear people tell us that, look, we've got capacity to do over 4 million barrels in this country. That we have that capacity.
Yeah.
But they keep doing too. I keep telling us a lot less because of all of the other...
All crude oil theft, etc.
I mean, it's a complicated thing. So first of all, we had no investments for about 18 years. Why? Because we didn't have fiscals that were good to attract investments. I mean, and that's why the PIA came about. The PIA was principally to drive more investments into the Nigerian economy. Because look, if you're an investor and you want to go to any market, you have to model your fiscals. Now, you don't know what to model when there's uncertainty. Now, if it's bad, you can say, okay, it's bad, I'll still come. If it's good, then I rush better. Now, we've done that, and we begin to unlock some. I mean, some projects are now going on that didn't go forward for 12 years. So there's some positivity around it. But we need more. Then the licensing rounds as well, another big issue. How well do we handle it? Do we make sure the rounds are clear and transparent for everybody to come in and bring the right kind of people in? And then we have these divestments ongoing. I'm telling you, this is 2 years, 3 years. No decisions have been made on divestments. Every year we hear a mobile deal concluded, a Agric deal has been completed. Nothing has happened. Now, if you're an investor thinking outside the country, would you bring your money to a country where you can't live when you want to live? You wouldn't.
Ayo. Emmeline, perhaps let me look at it differently. Because if we look at the piping all across the nation, or in oil pipes, crude oil pipes all over the nation, we'll see some long-term thinking. But in recent time, would you say that those long-term thinking are still long-term? Given the issues we are having now, that we have to move fuel literally along the roads. Now, but in terms of the long-term thinking, long-term planning, do you see that in this entire fuel supply, or even crude supply quandary we found ourselves?
Well, being honest, I think those that designed the supply chain in Nigeria did an excellent job. And, they have depots across all the chains. They had 1,502 kilometers of pipeline. They had connections from Arepo to Ibadan to Suleja to all major depots. But then what happened in Nigeria happened again in sector. Lack of maintenance, lack of investment. So half of the pipelines are not working. Half of the supply chains are not working efficiently. So the thinking was correct. But the culture and lack of maintenance has killed the whole economy. And then we became import dependent. So everything comes through in Lagos now. And you have to bring everything by road. Again, putting more pressure on the road, putting more pressure on other infrastructure. So it's not lack of thinking. It's lack of implementation of thinking. But I think the biggest challenge we never talk about is we have a broke economy. We don't have money. And because we don't have money, everything we plan to do doesn't come to pass. So every time we say a budget, it's what becomes a budget. Implementation is always 50%, 45%. So it's not thinking that we lack here. It's implementation, it's capacity to implement properly.
Well, Mr. The issue that I'm looking at, you've talked about the fact that we plan. Plan is just a proposal. But if the thinking is right, and we actually, as you said, planned, is it that we didn't plan the maintenance into the planning?
Well, I think the plans are good. Like you said, implementation is not as poor, it's poor. And then again, there's lack of continuity. Let me give an example of what I really think about. When the PIA was signed, it wasn't the perfect law. It had some gaps. But what I expected was faithful implementation of the law. That hasn't happened. So it's not that the PIA is deficient, but the implementers have not done as good as they ought to do. And that gives a problem. And then again, sometimes we don't plan for transition. So we know that
I get all of that. I get all of that. But I'm just trying to look at, I like to look at issues from, what happened in the first place. I know that in the construction industry, if you want to build another house on a house that's either been pulled down or it collapsed, you have to literally root out the previous foundation to rebuild the foundation for any other house you want to build, even if it's the same kind of structure you want to put on it, you have to literally rebuild the foundation. That's the kind of thing that I'm thinking about right now, because we know how important petroleum is to us in this country. We also know the challenges that we have faced. We hear that the countries are already talking about alternative fuels and all of that, which you have also talked about. But for now, this is what we have. So in terms of the long-term thinking, what are the things that need to be done to get back there? I mean, you talked about the fact that even now, I mean, it would seem like a private investor in Nigeria is being frustrated by Nigeria for whatever reason, including the technicalities that you have mentioned. So in terms of long-term thinking, long-term planning, including all the perks, such as maintenance that need to be put in place, what are we lacking?
Maybe the will to implement properly, maybe the capacity to implement properly, and maybe the key issue is this, that we're not a very patient country. Nigerians are not very patient about any key reforms. And again, I understand why. Because reforms they've seen doesn't lead to nowhere. And therefore, there's a kind of, people are tired of when you say, oh, there's a reform growing, because every government has said, oh, we're doing a reform that will lead to more, better life for you, then it doesn't happen. So we've lost that patience for it. But again, that's the only way out of it. Longer term thinking, then planning for transition. Like you said now, I mean, if I were Dangote and I brought in $20 billion of investment in Nigeria, and I can't get my crude and everything. Of course, already doing alternatives, buying from Brazil, buying from America, and other things. But then these are the kind of things that you have to plan against when you come to any country as well. So maybe what's lacking is the political will, lack of continuity, lack of financial stability in the system. I mean, if imagine you started an investment at $100 to $1, then it's now $1,000 to $1. Then, of course, that kills all your planning as well. So again, it's a lot of macro policy, implementation, design, and the political will to get things right. And then the patience of Nigerians, and then the apathy to reforms as well.
It goes back to the question that I asked about planning. I believe that a plan, I mean, is not just one-off. Now, when we talk about long-term planning, you are spot on. I mean, the pipelines were laid out for the long-term thinking, for the long haul, and all of that. But along the line, as you said, we dropped the ball in a good number of ways. Now, if we are going to think another 50 years from now, of course, we understand that by 2030, some nations already, even as at now, pronounce that they want clean energy all the way. But Nigeria is not there yet, and I don't know if Africa will get there by 2030. And already, Nigeria is part of the countries that are talking about clean energy and everything like that. So if we are looking long-term, 50 years from now, what are the gaps that need to be bridged so that Nigerians don't continue to get the wrong end of the stick all of the time? We are an impatient nation, and don't blame, just as you said, I mean, for so long, people have, no promises have really satisfied them. So 50 years from now, I mean, let's imagine that the heroes past planned well ahead of time. 50 years from now, what are the gaps that we need to fill? So we are not talking about this thing another 10, 15, 20 years from now.
A lot of things. I mean, like, again, we are now already in a transition phase worldwide, globally now. And like you said, now the future is without oil. The future is without crude. One of the things I had wanted Nigeria to do a long time ago was to stop using Nigeria's oil to fund the current expenditure. I thought that when you have a depleting asset like oil, which takes a long time to renew, I use that to build the future. But because of the paucity of funds, we use the oil to fund only today and eat today and tomorrow in one breath. So there's no money for tomorrow. Now, the thinking should be thinking, what happens when crude supply is not, I mean, when crude is not something very valuable again. When I joined in this industry, there were only 5 countries in Africa with crude. Now there are 19. Everybody has crude now. And everybody has crude in a time when the world is moving from crude into other things. So there's thinking of saying, okay, cleaner energy, like you said, thinking about EV vehicles, electric vehicles all over, taking away ICE engines away, thinking about how do you plan an economy where there's a diversity of access to energy. So it's already happening, not as in the scale we should happen. A lot of people now have in our houses, we now have solar panels. We're relying less on the national grid because it's unreliable to some extent and because they're expensive. But then the government has to find ways of saving money from what they're doing. I mean, our NSIA, our Sovereign Wealth Fund, is less than $2 billion. SH code account is maybe less than $2 million. You can't build an economy without funding. So the first thing is that you have to save money to build the future. And when you travel around and you go to global economies that are prepared, you find out that they're taking the money from their crude and put in the future. They've invested in future cities, and they're doing scenarios and simulations of what will be a world without fossil fuels. We don't have that yet. And again, it's all that part of, because today is so bad, we must survive today. We must survive today first. And that surviving today clouds future thinking. It doesn't allow us to think about what happens when our children ask us in 20 years, when you guys had crude, what do you do with it? What did you build with it? What's the economy thought about away from crude? And it's a problem. But the problem is, again, today is a big problem for us again.
But there's still several low-hanging fruit. There's several things that we can do, to at least as a springboard to get us to a very good advantage. I mean, transparency in the sector. I can see US daily rig count, but I can't see that of Nigeria. I mean, we have gas. You spoke about that too. If we do gas demand analysis and then you can match it with supply, you can leverage on that. There's several areas, but we could go on. But unfortunately, we'll anchor at this point. But I'm sure that we'll have perhaps a broader conversation in terms of this particular sector and see what we can do to get a lot more mileage. Ademola Adigun, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Some messages coming through from you out there. This first one is from Law Alpha. He said, it's a welcome development that federal government, has lifted ban on importation of food items by removing tariff on their clearance from the ports. This singular measure will be of great help in addressing food shortage. I think it's just for short term.
Yes, for short term, 150 to 180 days. Well, someone wanted us to ask the minister if the ICLS is for northern states alone. Well, I think that the minister needs to clarify, just how widespread the support is. But this one from Oshinawa Kingsley, talking about how it's a big shame that a country that could feed the whole of Africa is importing food items when we have not utilized a larger fraction of the potentials in the sector. Our farmers have been made to pay fees to bandits, and the government isn't doing anything about that.
Well, this one is from Yomi. It says, it would be great if the federal government had more support from state governments and private sector in tackling food insecurity. Every nation's result is the direct result of the collective behavior of each of its people, and every action we take is a child of a thought. Well, that's the program this morning. Thank you.
Festus Akimboyewa. Okay, that's it, right?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So.
Yeah, this is Festus's own now.
Oh, has that been taken?
It's not been taken. Well, Festus says a recent federal government's initiative aimed at addressing food shortages in our country is good. But extreme weather events and insecurity will continue to stretch the high cost of food in our country. Government at all levels must also be bold to tackle AK-47 carrying herders, destroying the farms of hardworking farmers.
Okay, there you go. That is the show today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you again next time. I'm Chamberlain Osop. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Have a great week ahead.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Bye for now.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV. You're watching ShopX TV, home to some of the most popular international brands in Africa. And we are now proud to introduce our biggest offer of the year, the ShopX Mid-Year Sales. From now until the end of July 2024, we will be offering our customers 20,000 Naira off this amazing kitchen collection. Tired of pans that scratch and stick, or cookware that takes up valuable space in your kitchen? Introducing ShopX Gotham Hammered Copper Collection.
You would normally pay up to 364,950 Naira for the 10-piece Gotham Hammered collection. But call the number on your screen now or scan the QR code and get the entire collection for just 344,950 Naira, saving you 20,000 Naira. But wait, if you order now, we will upgrade you to the 21-piece Premier Kitchen Collection. at no extra charge, and also include one Oil One food processor that blends, grinds, chops, dices, pounds yam, and makes smoothies in seconds. All for just 344,950 naira only. Place your order now and we'll deliver the entire collection for free anywhere you are in Nigeria.
The proceeding was a paid presentation brought to you by ShopX TV.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to News Track. I'm Olumide Macaulay. Here are the stories and the reports that we have for you this morning, and we begin with security. The National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, says that the federal government will continue to work towards providing adequate and effective security for all persons. Mr. Ribadu was speaking in Abuja shortly before handing over the 2 journalists who were recently rescued from the hands of kidnappers in Kaduna State. The NSA says kidnapping and banditry will soon be confined to the nation's history books. Responding on behalf of the victims, the Kaduna State correspondent of the nation's newspaper, Mr. Abdul Ghaffar Alaba Lewe, applauds the federal government for the timely response that led to their rescue.
As journalists who have been covering security situations in Kaduna and all over the country, but experiencing it is another thing entirely. But the rescue mission, which brought us out of the bush yesterday, gave us hope that we have a country and we have a government that is really ready to tackle this menace of kidnapping and bring all the victims back to their relatives safely. So we want to tell Nigerians that with the support of every citizen, the government can actually do this.
After the work, the combined effort of all the security agencies in Nigeria, we've been able to rescue the family and journalists who were victims of kidnapping in Kaduna. We thank God they are rescued. They have been with us in the last couple of hours. They have gone through all what it takes to get them back, including medical and so on. And we want to formally hand them over to you, Honorable Minister of Information. And just like many others we have done in the past, it has been a continuation of efforts of all the security agencies. And we hope and pray that time will come when we will be able to overcome this terrible thing happening to us as people. We want to assure you and assure Nigerians that we are working. It's a matter of time. It will come to an end.
And as part of efforts to assist the nation's security agencies in the fight against insecurity, Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, is pledging the support of the media to ensure that Nigeria remains a safe haven for all persons. Speaking in Abuja shortly after receiving 2 journalists who were rescued on Saturday in Kaduna, as we are reporting, Mr. Idris says the media will continue to throw its weight behind the federal government and the security agencies to ensure that the kidnappers are wiped out of the country. Mr. Idris applauds the National Security Advisor for the rescue of the journalists who were abducted from their homes 1 week ago.
young ones here, the children of Abdul Ghaffar. This is really very traumatizing, but we thank God that this day has come. And we want to urge you, the National Security Advisor, and to tell you that the Nigerian media is behind you, is working closely with you, and will continue to collaborate with you to ensure that everyone that is in captivity is being brought back home, and to also stop this cycle of criminal activity going on. We know what you are doing, like you have said, and we want to tell you that Nigerian people, especially Nigerian media, is behind you in this fight.
The Ogun State Police Command has arrested 2 suspected kidnappers, allegedly responsible for many kidnaps and killings in Ijebu and its environs, while 5 other members of the gang are at large. According to the Ogun State Commissioner of Police, the 7-man kidnap gang who were arrested in Ijebu North local government area of the state are responsible for the kidnap and eventual killing of 2 men who were buried in shallow graves at 2 different locations. Leading men, officers, and health officials to the area where the victims were buried, the Commissioner of Police assures residents that the long arms of the law will catch up with the fleeing gang members.
Thank you. 23rd of November 2023, and the last one was on 31st, precisely Christmas Eve of 2023. We recorded 3 cases of kidnapping that have a familiar pattern, and we have been on this for quite some time until we got a breakthrough recently. These 2 suspects have confirmed being the culprits, while their other partners are presently on the run. They are here to lead us to the shallow grave where the kidnapped victims were buried. So we think it's better to follow that sequence. Let us confirm that it's actually a shallow grave where the victims are buried. Thereafter, we now give you details of the incident and how we came to this point.
Away from security, Nigeria is endowed with vast natural gas reserves, and leveraging these resources to power vehicles and the energy sector will greatly benefit the nation and its people. The managing director of the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative asserted this in an exclusive interview with Channels Television's Newsnight. He believes that utilizing the country's gas resources will ensure energy security, thereby enabling Nigerian businesses to thrive.
Our work as a people is to open up opportunities for our people. Our work as a country, the president has set a goal for us that by year 2030, we will be a $1 trillion economy. We cannot do that without energy security. If you do not have energy security around, predictability around, okay, if I leave my home this morning, when I'm going to get to work and when I'm going to leave work because, somebody has to go and buy diesel and queue for fuel, it's a time-wasting venture. And then you don't even know the price of the fuel you're going to buy because the guy might get to the fuel queue, maybe the last guy to get fuel, and they say, fuel is finished, and he has to now go and buy black market. Why are we going through that in 2024 when we have gas on our feet? When we have people like you and I that have expertise in the sector that can enable investment into the sector.
To watch the full interview, please join us for Newsnight on Monday today by 9 p.m. on all Channels Television platforms. Meanwhile, it is illegal for anyone to supply electricity to consumers on estimated billing. That's the view of the Lagos State Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources, Mr. Abiodun Ogunleye. The commissioner says that lack of supportive infrastructure for power across its value chain is the reason for the deficiencies seen in